Kylie.
Welcome to Historia.
Woo woo! A fun place to be.
I just figured out that the last, I think it was the Robert Smalls one, my microphone wasn't on.
Oh, yeah.
So if I sound really quiet then, that's probably why.
It's showing that you're louder, so that's good.
Oh, yeah. So it totally was because my microphone was on. So it's just coming from Kylie's.
So I think we figured it out.
We're techie.
Woo!
Good Lord.
Jeez, man. I hope you all are doing well. You're in mid-April. We're not to April yet. We're getting closer. But
Happy Easter? Question mark.
almost,
When's
I think.
Easter?
I think it's like the 20th or something.
That's the one thing I hate about Easter. Is
Yeah,
that
you
it's
never know what it is.
I know, because sometimes
It's not consistent.
well, I remember one year it was during spring break, and we were going to Arizona that year, and so my sister and I were just like, oh my gosh, is the Easter Bunny not going to come then?
Oh.
And so my mom, she's like, yeah, he totally will. And so she got these freaking, like, big, like, blue, like, present bags.
Oh.
And then she had us, like, decorate them, and that was, like, our Easter basket.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and she just, like, filled it up for us.
That's so fun, though.
Yeah. Like,
Love that.
yeah, the Easter Bunny came to our hotel room.
The Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
Nice.
Memories.
Yeah, I think it's like April 20-something this year. But yeah, it's hard because you never know.
Yeah, so I'm just here for my mom's cheese and potatoes. That's the best part of Easter.
I don't really have any, like, traditions, I feel like. But I'm doing a Easter egg hunt for my niece and nephew.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I have to share a story. So this has to deal with alcohol.
So if you are under the age of 21, click off.
Whatever. So I think this was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. 3 years ago. Because James and I had just started seeing each other. Like, we had maybe met, like, only a couple times. And Erica was having a Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
At their house. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be so much fun. I can't wait. Like, adults, they get competitive. Like, their friends get really competitive. But there was, like, a trick to it. There was, like, another, for, like, adults to enjoy it, was that these big eggs, they had shooters in them.
Oh.
So every time that you would pick up, like, a big egg, and you would have to open it. So you never knew, like, if you got the shooter or not. So when you would open it, and the shooter would be, you had to take it right there.
Oh.
It was...
So everyone's starting to get drunk and, like...
I got the worst of it. I kept getting them. So one of them was an apple vodka, like Smirnoff vodka. It was disgusting. I hate apple.
Oh, me too.
With that, like, I love apples, but I hate apple flavored stuff.
I feel that.
I was just like, oh my god, that's so gross. And then I took the worst shot of my life, and it was Tabasco whiskey.
Oh.
I threw up in my mouth. I was like, Erica has it on film. And I was just like, oh my god. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, oh.
That sounds fun, though, an Easter egg hunt with alcohol.
Oh my god, it was so much fun. I wanted her to do that this year, but they're just far too busy.
Yeah.
With, like, everything with them going on. But that was... I just remember texting James later that day, and I was like, I completely regret all of that. I was like, I feel awful because I was drinking beforehand too.
Oh, yeah.
So I was taking, like, other shots, and then I took this gross apple moonshine.
So you're just mixing all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I got so sick. I was just... That night, I don't remember much of it.
Blacking out on Easter. What up?
It was awful.
Oh, no.
But it was a lot of fun because then I just carved up on candy.
Love that. Wow. Very exciting. I also have to say, I'm jealous that you went to Disney on Ice.
Oh, yes! Oh, my God. So, yeah, I'm almost 25 years old, and I went to Disney on Ice.
I was like, Tangled's there? And then I saw Coco's there. I was like, what?
It was... Knock it off. It was really cool. Like, the Tangled one was the best one by far. Like, the Moana one was awesome, but the Tangled one, like, them just, like, spinning around, like, in the air, like,
so
just,
cool.
like, it wasn't even, like, the Flynn guy lifting her. Like, they literally had, like, those trapeze artist type stuff, or, like, acrobats. Hey, oh my gosh. But they were literally just, like, spinning in the air, going crazy. It was amazing. I don't know how people do that.
Yeah,
I think
that's
the worst part were the children. It was for children. It's just, oh god, they were just so annoying.
The worst part of Disney on Ice was the children. Oh god.
Yeah, because you have, like, the screaming children, the parents don't know how to parent anymore. They just let their children scream, and it's like, take the responsibility, and if
take
they're
them out.
Right, yeah, take them out. Like, it's not that hard. Like, you paid $30 knowing that your child's probably going to scream throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
Take the responsibility to not ruin everybody else's time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we are just as big as fans, and we don't want a screaming child. And then Erica, this one child, kept, like, hitting, like, grabbing her hat and stuff, and I was like, I would have freaking punched this kid in the face. I would have gone to jail.
I'm glad you did it.
I don't like children touching me with their grimy mitts if I don't accept it. It's like, consent, please. But it was still a lot of fun. I almost lost my shit though, so I have patience for people most of the time, like grown ass adults and kids sometimes.
Kids once in a while.
Yeah, but like with adults, like I am far better with patient with people than I am with technology.
Yeah.
But last night I was so pissed because we were waiting in line to get food, and this guy, his card is so fucked up, like the barcode on it.
Yeah.
That when the concession dude kept swiping it, it wouldn't go through because it was an old card. It's like, at that point, dude, like,
get a new one. It takes 5 minutes.
Honestly. But like, this guy, he finally figured out that he couldn't run it. And so we had to put it in, like, manually. And he did this at least 10 times.
Oh my god.
He just kept doing it and it wasn't working. And I'm like, at one point do you finally just say, okay, it's not working?
You can't pay with this.
Yeah, I was getting so frustrated. I was just like, we gotta get to our seats. There's all this other shit going on. Like, come on, hurry up. Like, the people in the line next to us, there was probably at least 5 or 6 people who went before we even got up there.
Oh my god, that's so annoying.
I was so mad. I was like, normally I'm like, okay, if like they're having error.
But if it's like consistent like that. Also, they could have just been like, hey, we can help you guys over here since you've been waiting a long time.
Yeah, and like just the dude in front of us too wasn't even apologizing for it, because normally if my car was having a problem, I'd be like, guys, I'm sorry. Like,
I would be like, don't even worry about it. Like, I'd be like, just keep the line moving. I won't get anything.
Yeah, but like this dude was so disrespectful that he just was waiting there, and I was like,
Karen, Chad, whatever.
But I was, it was a fun night though. But I just, people annoy me.
Does it only come once a year?
Yeah, it's normally around spring break time, and that's why, like, we never really were able to go.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I know we went once before, and that one was a really fun time, because we got the Lilo and Stitch cup. I got a Moana one this time. Nice. It's so cute. But
I'm going next time.
Yeah, it's all weekend.
I know.
But it was still a lot of fun. I definitely want to take my children there in the future. But just for right now,
you're your own children.
Honestly, I would rather take myself.
I don't blame you on that one. Can't take your dogs. You can't.
No. Well, I think Remy could be a therapy dog at some point. Yeah. He's smart enough and he likes people enough. Yeah. That he could. It's just he is a whiner.
Oh, jeez.
Gosh, I've talked enough.
I love it. Anyway, I'm trying to think. I don't have anything new. I have spring break and it's almost over. Oh, yours is only a week? Yeah. Boo. Yeah, so I go back on Monday, which is in 3 days. Very exciting. Ooh. I have a countdown on my phone for the last day of school. It's like,
when is that?
May 26th.
Okay.
So I'm getting closer, but woo, guys, this year has been rough. That's all I can say. We're making it through.
Heck yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, I guess with that being said, I don't know how to segue into this, but
segues do not exist.
No, they do
anymore.
Not. But I'm going to be jumping into Sparta one last time. Yes, I know part 2 is a little shorter, but this one is going to end everything, and it's going to be a little longer just because I didn't want to make 4 parts and have them each be like 30 minutes. I was like, there's no point in that. So we're just doing one last episode. And once again, I cannot cover everything. There's no possible way. So bear with me. Today we're going to be talking about the end of Sparta. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, and we haven't even gotten into like Sparta versus Athens. So we're doing that today as well.
Peloponnesian War.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going to be happening.
Yeah.
So, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Hold on.
What?
Hold on. Okay, so last time in part 2, also if you haven't listened to part 1 or 2, go listen to those first, because I noticed that people were listening to Cleopatra part 2 more than part 1.
Why?
I don't know, but it had a significant more amount of downloads than part 1 did. I'm like, wouldn't you want to hear the first part? But okay. So
people didn't care about Julius Caesar. They don't give a fuck about him. They want to know about
Caesar's Adventure. Little Caesars, I think is what I named
Well,
it.
they want to know Mark Antony.
Yeah, probably. More. Everyone was like, let's just skip to part 2. But anyway, yeah. Okay, well, here we go. I just wanted to throw that out there. Listen to the first parts first. Okay. All right. So, we last left off where Sparta and Athens were coexisting peacefully. But this would not last for long. So, yeah, they had a mutual mistrust. Neither of them really trusted each other because they knew they both were powerful. And so they had conflict kind of boiling. It's like watching water starting to boil. Okay. That's what it was like there. So, in 465 BC, there were multiple massive earthquakes that hit Sparta. And they lost a lot of their population. Actually, most of their population. Yeah. And so after this, the Helots were like, we don't want to live here anymore because this is just like, we're going to be forced to be warriors and we're going to be forced to go through training and we don't want that. Okay. We just want to like live our life. And so the Helots started revolting. So if you guys remember, they were the ones who were taken away from their land of Messenia, so they were forced to move to Sparta to be the slaves. So they decided to go back to Messenia, and they were waiting to fight Spartans because they knew the Spartans would come after them.
Yeah.
So they're just waiting there, peacefully waiting for Sparta, and Sparta never came. They were just kind of like, no, we're not even going to go over there. Like, we'll get them back. And they know that we can get them back, but they just let them wait. So at this time, Sparta's also like, okay, if we go to Messenia and we try to get those Helots back, we need to have our allies with us. So Sparta was like, hey, Athens, you want to come over and help us? Like, obviously with their cell phones. No, I'm just kidding. So Athens and other allies were able to help Sparta with this, which is very interesting because, again, they are allies at this time. So they ended up sending troops. The other allies did, not Athens. Athens ended up sending technology that was not yet around in Sparta. I don't know what this consisted of, but...
A cell phone.
Yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, so this is going to be invented like years from now. But they had technology, like, okay.
A wheel?
Probably. It's probably something like that. But anyway, so the Athens actually really helped them. Sparta knew that people were upset about them enslaving fellow Greeks. Because if you remember, usually the Greeks will enslave, like, foreigners. But Sparta was like, we're going to take our fellow Greeks and we're going to enslave them. So that's why they got it from Messenia. So they knew that people were pissed about this. Like, they've known about it for years, that people are just not cool with it. And so with that being said, they've always been very careful because they don't know if somebody's going to revolt against that. And that's how they felt with Athens, because they were like, Athens could be on our side, or they might just decide that it was wrong of us to enslave them and then fight for the Messenians.
Yeah.
So they just didn't know who to trust. They didn't know what to do. So basically, they were like, okay, Athenians, thank you for your technology. Can you leave now? And they sent them home. The Athenians were like, what? Like, they did not expect this to happen because all they were doing was trying to help. Mm-hmm. But Sparta was forcing them out suddenly. And so the Athenians were like, you know what? Fuck this. And so they tore up their treaty with Sparta, and they helped the rebels who escaped, so the Messenians, by giving them a new place to live. So they're like, hey, come on over here. We have this whole new area for you, this whole new city-state. You can come hang out next to us and live your life here.
That's how you cause enemies.
Yeah. So that's just a start. Dun, 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 dun. But yeah, so they're ready to rile up some tension now. So this was the start of open hostility. Mm-hmm. This was the very beginning. So here we go. This led to a war between Sparta and Athens. Sparta allowed Athens to get so powerful, and they felt very threatened by Athens. And again, if we think about it, Sparta has lost a lot of their population.
Yeah.
So a lot of their really strong fighters are dead. And so they've had to kind of rebuild their society, and they don't have as many people as they once did. On the other hand, Athens has been thriving and like growing in a bunch of different areas.
Yeah.
So Athens is starting to grow their military as well, and they're starting to get very powerful. And so Sparta's like, they're going to take control of us if we don't act out now. And so Sparta declared war in 431 BC. They decided to start by going 7 miles past the Athens wall. So if you remember, Athens actually has a wall that separates them, whereas Sparta is like, we are the wall. They're so dramatic. And they turned into moral enemies. They used to be allies, now they're enemies. And a year into the war, Heracles gave a speech at the Athenian soldiers' funeral, because there were a lot of Athenian soldiers who had died at that time, saying that everything we do is right and everything that Spartans do is wrong. So keep fighting against the Spartans.
Oh.
Yeah. So Athens was known to have natural courage. Like they weren't forced to have it. They just did it because of the type of people that they were. And they were saying that Sparta has state-induced courage because they feel like they have to have the courage, but they don't actually have it naturally. Yeah. I'm like, boom, roasted.
Honestly, that's just at this point is what they're doing.
Yeah, they're just roasting each other. And so the Athens felt like at this time that Sparta could never coexist peacefully. Like they've tried to do that with Sparta in the past, but of course they're just so focused on fighting. Mm-hmm. And so they know that they can't just be like, hey, let's go back to being allies. Like at this point, they have to keep going.
I just don't think that they could ever be allies because their ideologies were so different from one another.
Yeah.
Just especially just how they treated one another within their own society.
It's true.
Like the Athens didn't give a shit. The Athenians didn't give a shit about their women, whereas like Sparta had a different take. And it's like water and oil.
Right, it is. They should not mix.
Mm-mm.
But they did. It is. It's like when you're like trying to like force a friendship or a relationship with someone who's like the complete opposite of you.
Yeah.
And like you try, but like eventually, things are just not going to go well.
Yeah, you just have to realize.
Yeah. And so that's what was going on, which led to the Peloponnesian War. So this war lasted more than 2 decades. Was that you screaming or Ruby?
That was Ruby.
You sound like Michael Jackson.
She was starting to fall. I didn't want her to tear my leg off.
I love it. Okay, anyway, so neither side was able to win at the beginning of the Peloponnesian War. They had a stalemate. The Athens dominated on the sea, while Sparta dominated on land. So at this point,
makes sense.
Yeah, they're equally powerful just because of the areas that they're used to. And so every year for 5 years, Sparta acted out by burning down the Athenians' farms. Okay.
Oh, dude.
Ruby's trying to, like, kill Jamie's leg.
Dude, chill out. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. And so because Sparta was burning down their farms, the Athenians had to rely on, like, secret areas of land to get food, but also they had their fleet to get food. So they were losing a lot of their food as well. And then, so Athenians are dying because of starvation, but then there's a plague that comes.
Oh, no.
And so the Athenians are going through this plague, and it lasts a year. And within that year, we had corpses just piled high in the street, obviously. They can't really do anything with them. So corpses everywhere.
That is the worst thing to do.
Yeah.
Because that is what causes mass exposure.
Yeah.
Is dead corpses in the street.
You're breathing all that in.
Yeah.
And so 1/3 of the population of Athens was then gone.
Good Lord.
That is a lot.
That's nature's
extermination. Yeah.
Good Lord.
And so even their leader, Pericles, he even got the plague. So Sparta took this as proof that the gods were on their side. They were like, yes, y'all are with us, not Athens. You want us to win. So they really didn't feel bad for the plague.
How did it not hit them?
I don't know. They just, because it was the people in the city than the actual soldiers. So I guess they just never interacted with them. I'm guessing a few might have gotten it, but it definitely didn't wipe out their population like it did in Athens.
Yeah.
But that is very interesting.
I mean, Sparta can't say shit. They had all those problems with earthquakes.
Right. Yeah. I feel like it's kind of payback. They kind of wanted it to happen because they were like, we had something like that happen to us. So.
The gods are on no one's side.
Right?
They're on the sides for themselves. Zeus is laughing at you.
Exactly. Oh my. But Sparta was very spiritual. Water. Really? Where did I put it? Yes. Huh. Not religious, but they relied heavily on the messages that were sent from the gods. They were very focused on that because they believed that the reason why they were fighting.
Well, they probably worshipped heavily Ares.
Yeah, probably.
So.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an island called Pylos, and this is an island that is right behind Sparta. Mm-hmm. So in 425 BC, this was a place of major strategic importance. It was seized by an Athenian army and Spartans' former slaves. So basically what happened is Sparta sent an army because they knew that the Athenians were going to go attack from that side. And so if they come into the Pylos island, then they'd be able to keep going into Sparta. And so they knew this, and so Sparta decided to blockade the Athenians by land and water, so they're not able to pass through this. But again, Athenians are very good on sea. They know what they're doing. So they sent a large fleet onto Pylos Bay, and they seized control of all of those waters before Sparta could even go defend themselves.
Wow.
Yeah. So Sparta was forced to withdraw, and they left behind 400 troops who were posted on the island. So now we have 400 troops that are just chilling on the island. They cannot leave. So, yeah, they were trapped, basically. And this lasted for 72 days. Yeah. So there was a very long standoff that lasted 72 days. And a group of soldiers left a campfire spread, which raged across the island. And so we had fire now on that island. And so Spartans, they couldn't hide because now the trees were burnt down. And so any areas where they were hiding from the Athenians, now they were exposed because of the fire. So the Athenians could now see them. And the Athenians had 800 armed troops, whereas Sparta only had, I think I said 400. Yeah, they only had 400.
So half the size.
Yeah. And so they decided to take the island. They threw arrows and rocks, anything that they could at the Spartans. They knew not to get too close to the Spartans. And so they're just throwing things from afar. So the Spartans, I'm just imagining take this rock. But they were low-key scared to come next to them. But the Spartans, anytime that they looked like they were about to fight back, the Athenians would run away. They'd be like, all right, never mind.
Oh my god.
So they're trying to hide and throw things and then run.
Wow.
And so, but there were so many Athenians that the Spartans were outnumbered, and therefore they're surrounded by all of these troops.
You know what they should have done? They should have done what they did during the Black Plague for, I think it was in Europe. They would literally just fling dead bodies
I guess they could have.
Yeah, because that's how they would spread the disease.
Oh my god. I shouldn't laugh at that, but just the image of that, like, grab him. Imagine just a dead body being thrown at you. Jesus.
They would just catapult them.
Oh god. That is an image I didn't want in the picture. I mean, that's a strategy, I guess.
It's a very poor one, but I guess, like, it works.
Oh, man. Yeah, Athenians could have done that. But...
they weren't that advanced yet.
Exactly. But when this was happening and the Sparta were outnumbered, they knew that they had to finally show what was expected of them. Because, again, for years and years and years, Sparta has been known as, like, the strong city-states that can take anyone down, strong, fierce warriors. And now they're just letting Athenians throw rocks at them. So, they knew of their heroic struggle. They knew that that was a part of their life, and also the beautiful death. And so they knew that this was their final test. They may not make it out alive, but they are ready to fight.
They're ready to go.
Yeah. And so they started just attacking the Athenians. The Athenians started to hold back for a while because of the power that the Sparta was showing. Mm-hmm. But then they were like, Spartans, can you just surrender? So the Spartans were like, fine, we'll surrender. Yeah.
Really?
And this was all on that island area, so all of the troops there. Mm-hmm. Because the Spartans were so tired of being trapped on the island, and they were losing men.
Yeah.
Like crazy. So they were like, if we just surrender now, they can go home. And then, like, we'll keep going from there. Yeah. But we need time for them to, like, we need this whole situation to just be done.
Yeah.
And so the whole city of Sparta was shocked that they surrendered. They're all, like, gossiping in the town, like, oh my god, did you hear? God, they call themselves strong men. Like, they were, like, roasting the hell out of them.
Oh.
And the Athenians were like, don't worry. Like, we know what we're doing. So they were very smart to do this because they refused to give Sparta a close fight like they wanted. They know that, like, Sparta is just going to think that they can win. And Athenians are like, you're going to have to work for it. Like, we're not going to just let this happen. Mm-hmm. And so they were using strategies of, like, knowing how the Spartans fought and using it against them.
Well, yeah, because that's what Athens does best. It's
right.
Like they
study.
They're the educational.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those things where brains is bigger than the muscles.
Bronze. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's brains over bronze.
Yes, exactly. So now, this was just a cool fact. As I was researching, I saw there's a shield in a museum in Greece, and the shield says, you can see, like, the metal parts of it still. It's really cool. But there's some Greek writing, and it says, taken by Athenians. So it's, like, what they used to mark that they basically were winning the war.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So that's just in a museum somewhere. But, because we were talking about it last time, I think, or part 1, like, what the shields would look like when they uncovered them. Yeah. And so it's just interesting because you can see, like, the metal parts, but obviously, you know, since it wasn't fully metal,
it's not like a full shield that people think, because in the movies and stuff, they make it seem like their shields were completely metal.
Yeah, no.
That
shit would not have worked out well.
No. That stuff would have been hella heavy. Mm-hmm. Like, it was already 20 pounds.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to hold more than that. So, if Athens were like, Athens was like, if Sparta makes a move onto our territory, they will be killed immediately. And so they wanted Sparta to know this. Like, the war's not over, but you will stay in your area. And so they took some of the Spartans hostage that tried to come over, and they displayed them in public like animals. And so they're just, like, having people walk by and, like, spit on them and roast the hell out of them.
Oh, so they were, like, in stocks?
Yeah. Okay. And everyone is making fun of them for being weak. And so Sparta decides to sue for peace. But Athens was not down for that because they're like, we have already tried to be peaceful. It didn't work. And so they're like, nope, you can't have that. So there were Spartan hostages that didn't go home for 5 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And when they returned, they weren't treated harshly by Sparta because Sparta felt bad for them, obviously. So even though they were weak or whatever for surrendering, like, at least they were alive still.
Yeah.
Like, they made it through the battle. So, Sparta is not making fun of them when they come home. They're like, it's okay. Bring it in. It's fine.
Bring it in.
And so...
Drink some pig's blood.
Yeah. The diet's going to change soon.
Oh, good.
Not soon, but sort of. All right. So, this brings us to the Delphi. And this is a religious site in ancient Greece that connects them to the past and future. So not only is it like the past gods, but it's also what they're going to do in the future. So we talked about the oracles and how there were a lot of famous ones there that people knew of.
Yeah.
And so people went there for advice. What do I do next? What's going to happen to our city-state? That kind of thing. So Epiphaia was an old woman who was crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, they thought she was possessed.
Oh, yeah.
But she was doing like low-key, like early drugs.
Okay.
Like eating plants.
Okay.
And so her brain,
yeah,
her brain was actually like everywhere.
Yeah.
But I love it. And so she would basically listen to what they had to say, and then she would tell a priest what that person should do. So then the priest can deliver the message. And so Delphi was becoming old-fashioned. People were like, that is so last year. Like, we're moving on to different things. We have, like, different temples that we can go to.
Yeah.
We don't have to just go to this one place to get advice. But Sparta was not that way. They felt that it was safe and secure. So they're like, if we go to the Delphi, at least we know that we can trust it because we've trusted it in the past.
Yeah.
And so there's already been a decade of war so far between Athens and Sparta. And Sparta was still like, it's okay, let's just keep trusting the oracles. So they went to the oracle, and the Athenians were totally done with that. They're like, we're never going there. Like, we don't trust that anymore. We're taking our own advice. So that's where they differed with, like, their spiritual beliefs, I guess.
I think they're kind of tearing away from, like, I'm sure they still worship the gods, but when it came to, like, them speaking through something,
I think
they're probably like, that's not scientific.
Yep, probably. They're like, we're too smart for that. We got an education. Okay, so the Spartans went to the oracle to see what was in their future for their city, because at this point, they're like, we don't know what to do next. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. And so they were told that the Spartans would taste the bitterness of total defeat and that the walls of Athens would turn to rubble. So they're basically told, like, keep fighting and you guys will win. And so they're like, oh my God, really?
Of course that's what they want to hear.
Right? They're not going to be like, I give up on everything. So even after 10 years of fighting, the plague, and military embarrassment, they were like, all right, let's keep going. And so they agreed on an armistice, which is basically, I don't know, like, the best way to, you might know more than me, but, like, it's not to end the war, but it's to, like, move on to something new with the war, basically. So I don't know a lot about the military, but I know that that's a thing that people have used. It's like temporary peace, I guess. And so this brings us over to the island of Sicily. This was the biggest battle. Syracuse wanted a war. They were a big, powerful area, and they were just like, we're bored. Let's fight.
Wow.
Because they were also training heavily. So the Athenians wanted war more than Sparta at this point. Sparta's just kind of like, we're tired, we're losing men. And so they're like, whatever. So Athenians were the ones who started going over to Syracuse first.
That's in Italy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot I cut myself last night.
Oh.
With a knife.
Oh.
I cut off like 2 layers of skin. All right, anyway. Don't let me cook. Just kidding. So in one night, there was a big attack that was made on Athens near their statues. So they had an area where they had a lot of their statues. Yeah. And this part's just funny. The next morning, we interrupt this message with the Ribby's food. A girl's gotta eat when a girl's gotta eat.
This has been Ruby's feeding time.
Sponsored by... What's your cat food called?
Science diet.
Oh, there you go.
The perfect white kind.
That's because she gets so excited when her food goes off. I've never seen a cat move so fast.
She gets fed 4 times a day.
She eats more than humans.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next morning when Athens looked at their statues, none of them had noses anymore. So they took away their noses. And this was a threat to them, like, you're going to lose some of your senses, that kind of thing. It was like a dumb, like, metaphorically put. Yeah. Just imagine the guy that was like, guys, I have an excellent idea. Let's just go to the statues and, like, take their noses off.
Oh, that's just disrespectful.
I know.
To the artist.
Yeah. And so the Athenians were like, screw this. Let's go get them. They knew that it was Syracuse because they've been threatening to come near someone in Greece. And they knew Sparta didn't want to. Didn't really care.
Yeah.
So they're like, let's get the Athens. So the Athenians, they set sail on their giant fleet. The leader of Syracuse, I forgot to write down his name. I was like, I need to just write down his name because it's very long. So I'm just calling him the Syracuse leader for now.
Wow.
He was in trouble because he was going against the gods. So he was like kind of the hipster, and he was like, I don't think we should listen to what the gods have to say. And so a lot of people in Italy were like, what?
Well, they had Roman gods.
Right.
At this point.
Yeah, so their gods were, the Roman gods, but they were still like, dude, you're our leader. Yeah. You have to listen to the gods. You have to respect them. What do you mean? And so, basically, knowing that people were upset with him, he decided to move to Sparta. And the reason for this was because he knew that people would follow him because there were some people who were rebelling against the gods because of their defeat. Yeah. That kind of thing. So he did gain a small following, but also he
gave herself more food.
How?
She like bumps into it.
Ruby!
You're too smart.
Oh my god. But also he had Spartan connections. So I think his dad was from Sparta. Okay. So he's technically a Spartan. Yeah. And so he could play it well. He knew how the Spartans acted, and so he pretended that he was originally from there, basically. Yeah. But he's actually kind of an enemy of them and doesn't actually like Sparta.
Hey! Knock it off!
Ruby, give it up.
No, you can't go to it.
Oh, yeah, so he's pretending to be a Spartan, but he's actually an enemy of Sparta, and most of the Spartans believe that he was on their side. So they're just, like, letting him in and trusting him.
Okay.
And in Sparta, a lot of times the married women could have many sexual partners with their husband's permission. So they had to get permission. But they could go have sex with other people. They believe that this would help create a bigger population. And especially now more than ever, now that their population is going down tremendously, they're like, okay, women, just go have sex with whoever. We need more warriors, basically. Yeah. We need more people if we want this land to survive. So with that being said, a lot of married women could go do that. And so the Syracuse leader had a love affair with the king's wife. Ooh. And advised Sparta to get aid from their allies, Syracuse. So they're like, hey, just go over there. So now that he's involved with the king's wife, he's now like kind of leading the government a little bit, and people are starting to look up to him, and he's getting a bigger following. Okay. And so when he tells them, hey, let's go to Syracuse, let's get some aid. He has a crazy plan. Yeah. But the Spartan general went over there, and when he arrived, things went very bad for Athens. Syracuse saw a Spartan enter their home, and they began to fight back. And so Athens sent reinforcements, and they had a huge knife attack. Just imagining all these knives everywhere. And by dawn, the Athenians were exhausted, and they wanted to leave. Sorry. They wanted to leave Syracuse. Not save it, trust me. They wanted to leave Syracuse because they're just like, we're tired of this shit. And so, obviously the Athenians were there to help with the Spartans. Yeah. But that was just a one-time thing. They're like, never again, bud. And so the Athenians were like, we're out of here. This is not worth it. And so there was an eclipse that night. And priests advised them that the omens would be better next eclipse. So it's just a remarkable night because of the eclipse happening. Mm-hmm. And they thought of it as a sign. Yeah. Like, let's just keep going.
Always is.
Always is. Because they didn't have news. You know, you just had to trust in something. So there was a line of ships across the Syracuse harbor. The Athenians they were trapped by the ships because of the way that they were lining them up. And a lot of them ended up dying in Syracuse. Whoa, bless you.
Excuse me.
So the 7,000 survivors, the Athenians that were on the land that didn't get out, they were taken outside of town, kept in the sun for months. So they were forced to stay outside.
Oh my God.
And so a lot of them were dying from the heat. And then when it turned to fall, they started dying from the cold. And so they were barely given any food, water. They had a lot of diseases. There were corpses stacking everywhere. Mm-hmm. It was just not good.
No.
So the Syracusans? No, that's not a word. I don't know. Syraci? The Syracuse people. I don't know their plural forms. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. They were just torturing the hell out of the Athenians. Yeah.
Not good.
But there was one way that they could escape. Are you ready?
How?
The Athenians could get out by performing a section of a play. Now, if they didn't do well with their acting skills, they would stay and be tortured. If they did well, they were sold into slavery.
What?
How exciting! Yeah, so they literally had them perform like a famous poets, I guess.
Oedipus!
I don't know if it was Oedipus, because I didn't recognize the name, but yeah, they were forced to perform it if they couldn't. Too bad. They're staying there. So I just thought that was like, God. Wow. So Athens was now in despair because they were so weakened. They're losing a lot of their men. A lot of their men have not come back from Syracuse. And so it just was not going well. So the Syracuse decides that they are now on the side of the Spartans because they know that the Spartans are going against the Athenians. So Athens knows this and they're like, we're not going to give up no matter what, even if we do become outnumbered. So this brings us to a man named Lysander. He was a Spartan. His dad was a warrior, citizen, and his mom was a helot of Messenia. So she was one of the ones who were forced out of their land and then rebelled. He was admitted into the Agoge, which was, again, the training center for the men, and he became a military leader. The Persians did not pick sides, because I'm jumping to the Persians. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that. They went for whoever was winning. So Lysander knew how to get on their good side because he knew that, like, they're just going to go for whoever is doing the best and whoever's being nicest to them. That's kind of how Persia was. Yeah. I just think of it like when I watch sports, I'm like, whoever's winning. That's who I'm going to root for. That's how Lysander was. Or not Lysander, sorry. That was how Persia was. And so Lysander was like, let's just go like be friends with them. And then they'll be on our side. Ooh. And so that's exactly what they did. So they show up and they're like, hey, what's up? They formed a friendship with the Persian king, with like a lot of people that were around that area. So they're just like BFFs. And so Persia's like, hey, here's some money for you guys to help win the war. And then they also decided, you know what, we're going to help you out. They went over to Athens and emptied out all of their ships overnight. Oh. Yeah. And so they're like, oops, I don't know who did that. I feel like the Persians were just bored. Like they're like, somebody just come. We want to do something. And so Lysander's fleet defeated Athens multiple times because of the fact that they lost all of their stuff. Yeah. And so this gave the Spartans a good leverage. So he set up a brigade to cut Athens off from getting to their materials. So any things that they needed, they could not get anymore. Yeah. I know. I'm like, buddy. He was not afraid. He was like, we're going to win this shit. I'm like, okay. So in 485 BC, Lysander made Athens' fleet think he was scared. So basically like the Athenian fleet, oh my god, the Athenian fleet came up to him and he was like standing there and then he was like, he like hit himself and they were like, okay, he's not gonna hurt us. Okay. So they like believed that like he wasn't gonna threaten them or like he wasn't gonna go near them. Mm-hmm. He's just like waving to them. Like, so they were like, it's fine, everything's gonna be good. But then whenever they started to get their guard down, obviously he would strike at them. And so the Athenians were eventually at Lysander's mercy. They're like, please just let us pass. We're not going to hurt you. I'm like, one man. I'm very impressed. But and so Sparta then decided to burn down the Athenian walls. Ooh. And now they would rule Greece. Ooh. They took over Athens. And the leader of Syracuse, that I didn't write down his name.
Syracuse leader.
Yeah. He who shall not be named as of now. He was now on the Athenian side.
What? Why?
Because, I don't know. I don't understand. I think he's just like, I just want to cause problems as much as possible.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And so Lysander built a monument at the Delphi for winning the victory. And it's still there today, which is very interesting. So you can still see where that is. Huh. In 400 BC, this was 4 years after Athens' defeat. Everything started to feel safe and secure in Sparta. They're like, nobody's coming for us now. We're doing great. And everything stayed the same. So they were still having people training for whatever's to come. Mm-hmm. The women are still training, everything that they've done for years. They kept it. In 400, I'm going to talk about the collapse of Sparta. Ooh. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. I do that too much. So, in 400 BC, an oracle circulated around the city. They basically were saying that there was going to be a reckless king who was going to destroy Sparta. Mm. And so at this time, King Agis died. He was the king at the time. Yeah. And he could either give it to his son or his brother. And they're like, obviously, it's going to go to your son since he is the heir. Because he never made a final decision. So it went to his son. And his son's name is Agesilaus. He enrolled in Agoge at age 7. So he was the first person in royalty to also become a warrior, which is interesting. Because usually his name is? Agesilaus. Okay. That's how they pronounced it.
Agesilaus.
Oh, maybe I did say that wrong the first time.
Agesilaus.
I don't know. But Agesilaus, Agesilaus, because I wrote down how it's pronounced instead of how it's spelled. Okay, anyway. He's the first one to be fighting as royalty. And he was confident to be on the throne. But Lysander decided that this oracle was crazy because of the kingship. And so he's like, why would we let this guy rule? He didn't trust King Agis first, and then when King Agis died, he didn't trust his son. And so he's starting to twist the oracle around, and he's spreading the hot goss. So he's like, we're going to get this son out of kingship because we should actually trust the uncle instead. He knows more about what we should do. Ooh. And so his uncle, who had the same name, Agesilaus, came to the throne. And so the Spartan society started changing after this. There was more to life than fighting. And now they were actually given better food. So they weren't just told to eat pig's blood and vinegar. If you remember, that is their delicious meal that they ate every day. And so now they're starting to get more food choices. They're starting to focus on different things instead of fighting. And so many people believed that the good times were happening in Sparta. They're like, things are feeling good. We're doing good. Eating bacon. But the king wanted everyone to live simply. And he didn't know what to do about Lysander, because Lysander is the one causing people to kind of like, not rebel, but like change their ways. Because he's like, guys, let's just do this instead. And the king's like, excuse me, we should be doing it traditionally. But a lot of people actually trusted Lysander more, just because he'd been around and he like spread the oracle. Like, he's like the famous celeb in town. And so Lysander was treated with more respect than King Agesilaus. So the king would do anything to bring Lysander down. He threatened death if he tried to mess around. So he's like, try one thing and you're gone. And so Lysander tried to bring an oracle to ruin the Spartan kingship. So he was like, whatever, I don't believe you. So he spread more goss about the king and tried to get him kicked out. He was eventually killed, but in battle. So he wasn't killed by the king, but he was killed in battle. Oh. So,
R.I.P.
Yeah. So he's done. But Sparta's world was changing. There were a lot of people who were starting to sense different disasters that were coming.
Mm-hmm.
People just felt like there was a lot of tension going on. And there were a lot of like natural disasters coming upon.
Well, Greece
Sparta.
is a terrible place.
Yes.
When it comes to natural disasters, because they are very high prone to earthquakes.
Right.
I don't think hurricanes.
No.
But I'm pretty sure like flooding, just
right. Fire.
Fire.
It's wild.
But earthquakes are probably the worst by far.
Yeah. Okay, so year after he's king, there is an oracle that is announced that Sparta was surrounded by enemies. Ooh. So they're starting to get worried. So I'm going to talk about what's considered to be known as a low-grade Spartan. Okay, so now we have another class starting to appear.
Okay.
They were called the Kenedans. So it was when you failed to be a strong warrior. Mm-hmm. It's when you maybe didn't pass the agoge, or you were fighting in war, but then you like chickened out.
Yeah.
So they basically, Kenedon was the leader, so he was the first one to do this. He announced a conspiracy to everyone in Sparta, and he said that those who were in lower class were going to come up and rule Sparta because they were tired of the way that they've been treated.
Yeah.
And so there was only a few of them. There weren't that many that believed him, but they were known to be the low-grade Spartans. They walked around and got as many slaves as they could, anyone in lower class as they could, and they're all walking around with spears. And they're protesting in a way, basically. And they want to start a war with their own area. But they ended up in a place of execution. So the Spartans were just fucking stop, please. And so they were goodbye, dead. So that being said, they lost a lot more of their population.
Yeah.
Which I'm if you're trying to if you're trying to have more people in your area, maybe don't kill people who are living in your area. Maybe just be yeah, you're right. You can come up a little bit. But
give them what they want.
Right. They're not going to turn against Sparta. They just want to be respected in a different way.
They want to be a part of it. They want to be labeled.
They're not even citizens.
That was their fault, and you know what? They got what they deserve.
Yeah, definitely. And so Sparta was running out of Spartans, and they're oh no, how did this happen? It's oh my god. And now they only have 1,000 citizens.
That's their own fault.
Yeah. So now they can't give many warriors to the battle. They're this is not going to work because we don't have that many. We have to protect them. And so now they're sending off the helots. They're you know what? You're a slave, so if you die, it's okay. So just roll with the punches. We'll do a quick trial run of the training and hope that you can catch on. But you're not going to go through the agoge. That's too much work. So they're just kind of if you die, whatever. Because they're not citizens. Wow. So, yeah. And the Athenians at this point did not have many allies, just because of the way that they responded to Sparta. And now people are you guys are too much. So remember, they're the teacher's pet. So people are oh my God, leave us alone. And so in 371 BC, they had a huge meeting of all of the city-states surrounding this area. Thebes was, he was there as well. And Sparta was supposed to be top-notch. They're you guys, you told us you were the best. And you weren't, and so Thebes stood ground, and King Agesilaus fought back at Thebes, and he was I bet you couldn't do any better. Come at us. And so now they were under a battle at Leuctra, which is where Thebes ruled. Okay, so Sparta knew that their day of reckoning would come at Leuctra, and they were we're going to go fight there. We're going to win. It's going to be awesome. And so Thebes dominated and defeated Sparta immediately. He's nice try, bud. It was not a long battle. And so King Agesilaus didn't want to be involved in the war while this was happening.
Yeah.
He was very much whatever, just go do what you want. I'm too busy. So he was not a very involved king. That's why many people did not respect him.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And there were 6,000 Thebians versus 700 Spartan warriors.
Dang.
So, yeah. That'll tell you. And then along with their 700 Spartan warriors, they also had 1,300 helot slaves. and reluctant allies. So they're like, I guess we'll help you, but like, I don't know. So they tried to get as many people on their side as they could, but they were still greatly outnumbered. And so the Thebans had the same strategies as Sparta. And so Sparta's like, excuse me? So they have like the phalanx where they're like all in their areas, you know, that little circle that they have. Mm-hmm. But theirs was more deep with men because they had more men. And so they could just attack even crazier. And so 400 Spartans were killed that day, which if we think about their military, they had 1,000 citizens.
Dang.
And now 400 are killed. It's not a lot of people.
Dude.
And so as a military force, Sparta was finished.
Yeah.
They're no longer considered that.
No.
And so the Messenians, they're doing great. They're free. They built their walls over their own area. They're like, you guys cannot come in and interrupt us again. We're our own area. And so they were. King Agesilaus tried to move to Egypt to rule, and Egypt rejected him.
What the fuck was he gonna do there?
I don't know. Egypt literally told him he was too old and kicked him out.
The Ptolemies were ruling at that point. Yeah, so Ptolemy was probably like, you, get out of here.
I just thought that was funny.
Shit to deal with.
They were like, you're too old. Get out. And Sparta never recovered after that day. And so, throughout the next few centuries, the city tried to go back to the original Sparta, but the utopia was completely broken apart. Yeah. They couldn't do it without the Helots. Mm-hmm. So it really shows you who was leading your area there. But
it's always the lower.
It always is, yeah. And so 400 years later, Augustus Caesar visited.
Oy.
And he honored the society for giving Rome their ideas. So Rome learned a lot of their like strategies from Sparta, and so he went there just to honor it. And this was what really helped keep their name alive, and for everything that they did. So he wrote a lot about, and people who were with him wrote a lot about like what was going on in Sparta, so that they could kind of keep that alive. And that's why there's some things documented. But he also helped build a theater to show off their history. So they wanted people to be able to come and tour Sparta. And obviously, since it's not the same as it used to be, people are kind of building their own society, but they could still come and they had performances of what Sparta looked like.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, they would show like the battle techniques, that kind of thing. It was like a big performance for them. And they would even show like the way that they danced and like trained for that. And so now we have the Temple of Ancient Virtues, and this is where very few men, honorable men, are. And so some are like Socrates and Homer. And then there's Lycurgus. He was the founder of Sparta. He's also there. So wow. That's another way that they've kind of kept Sparta alive.
I really want to go to Greece.
Yeah. And so that was the collapse of Sparta. I thought there would be like a dramatic, like something happened where like there's a flood, but it really was just that they lost.
It's just they couldn't keep their ideas strong.
Right.
Like it fell apart because they couldn't keep it together.
Right.
And like their slaves were the foundation. Mm-hmm. They were what kept everything together. Mm-hmm. And without that, it's impossible. And that's how every country is. That's how every society is that you need those working people to keep it moving, because without them, that high mighty king and whatever
can't succeed.
They don't even matter when it comes down to it. Like, I still don't get how monarchy is a thing, because if you even look at like Great Britain, it's like the king and the queen is only a face. Like, she has like some roles and stuff, but nothing like it used to be. Yeah. But it's all about the people now. It's all about their decisions, how they run society, what they open, how they take care of their environment. Which is kind of how Athens was. Yeah. You know, with their democracy. And Sparta was like, democracy? Ew. Like, they weren't willing to try new things. And I think that's what led them. Because they were very close-minded to their traditional ideologies. Yeah. And that is what struggles when you have a very traditional, I wouldn't say like culture, because I'm not trying to bash on traditional cultures, but like when you're very close-minded to those things, it's really hard to try new things or to a lot of times succeed or push forward, because you don't want to open your mind to new things. Right. Which that's how people are to this day, is that especially a lot of like the older generation, sometimes they're very close-minded.
Yeah.
Because it's traditional values. Like,
right, it's what they're used to.
Yeah. And that's just how it is. But like Sparta they couldn't get it together to see more. And I think it didn't help either that they didn't allow people to move up.
Right.
Into the class system or even be labeled as a Spartan.
I know. You had to fight in order to be a Spartan.
Yeah, and it's just like, I get it to the sense of like, that's how you stay in the club. And keep the club exclusive.
Yeah.
But it's like, is it really worth the exclusivity if you're going to completely lose it altogether? Is it really worth it?
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, like, I did, like, the rest of the Spartans just kind of disperse them after.
They either, like, moved somewhere else or they just, like, continued as a society. They just had to, like, rebuild it from the ground up. Because, like, now you can still go to Sparta.
Yeah.
And people live there, but, like, obviously it's just not what it used to be.
No. So I'm sure there are ancestors that a lot of those people who live in Sparta can be like, yeah, like, my ancestors are from here. Or people who live in different parts of Greece are probably like, yeah, my family is, like, I have descendants from Sparta. And
right.
They probably kept that alive. Or they could have just, nobody knows because they were just so defeated that they just didn't want anybody to know.
Yeah. So could be. It might have taken a while for people to start going back there.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, all right, we're fallen. Yeah. Can't do anything.
It was really hard too to see like where your life would have to turn to, because if you're moving somewhere else, like your beliefs will have to change. Because not a lot of people are going to respect you, like the women.
Exactly.
If they go to Athens, like they have to learn a completely different atmosphere. I'm sure no Spartan women went to Athens just for that reason.
But it's like, where else are they really going to go? Like they're going to be treated like that.
They're probably going to nowhere. Yeah, nowhere. And I mean, maybe Egypt.
Yeah,
maybe, because like their women had more freedom than Rome and Greece, but not like to an extent of like not like 100%, but better than if they were to stay there.
Yeah.
So
what I think is the most interesting thing out of researching Sparta is the fact that like I always considered them to be like so strong and powerful.
Yeah.
Like I always thought like, oh my God, they must have won everything. But then it's like when you actually look at it, they lost a lot. Like, and it was more so like the way that they trained and the way that they brought like different strategies, military strategies. I think what makes them more like legendary than the fact that like they were powerful, because they actually weren't like winning all the time.
I think after their fight with Persia, that's where they got their legend status.
Yeah.
And I don't think they could ever like keep up from that.
Right.
From everything that went on there to just from then on, they were just reminding themselves, well, let's not forget that we did this against Persia, that we defeated, that we only have 300 people to defeat Persia.
Right.
But it's just like in reality, it's like you can't dwell on the past. Like you have to keep moving forward. And I just don't think that Sparta did.
But anyway, that was Sparta.
Yay!
Hope you guys enjoyed.
That was a good one. Where can you find us?
Let's see. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. I forgot to mention our YouTube. We do have our YouTube where you can listen to us there if you want. And they're all at History of the Podcast. And then we have our Gmail. So you can email us at historiathepodcast@gmail.com if you have like any topic ideas or questions or comments or fun stories.
Ooh.
If you're from Greece, that might be fun to hear about. If you've been to Sparta before. All the things.
I want to go to Greece.
Me too. That's definitely on the bucket list.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
With a good one.
Woohoo.
Woo.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Ruby's dancing. How do I stop dancing?